retain the MPR at 27.50%.
In line with expectations, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has adopted a hold stance at the 299th meeting. The decision, according to the CBN governor, was unanimous to the 12 members of the committee after considering macroeconomic development, top on the list being inflation, which was recently rebased to reflect an over 10% drop in the consumer price index.
Nobody should infer that inflation has fallen to that level. No, because you are really comparing apples and oranges. But suffice to say, though, because this is very important, that we can see that inflation is gradually trending down.
The perspective of the meeting seems to resonate with some economists.
I think the best way we can really assess whether the policies that they continue to implement are generating the desired outcome, especially when it comes to price stabilization, is to see whether there's going to be a continuous downward trend post-rebasing. Because if we see an upward trend, then you will just build out temporarily by rebasing, but the problem still continues.
The MPC believes that sustenance of the positive trend would depend largely on the collaboration between fiscal and monetary authorities.
It's one thing to come here, cut the rate, but that thing needs to feed through. So right now, we're having, should I say, food issues, and it's not something that is for the central bank to do. They need the fiscal authorities to also come to the party.
The next meeting is scheduled for May 19 and 20, 2025. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
All of you seeing and heard in that report, the Monetary Policy Committee left the rate unchanged at 27.50% per annum, and all of the parameters were also left unchanged. So let's invite the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, to tell us, maybe give us a breakdown of what these figures are about. Hello, Mr. Rewane. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
On the news at 10.
Yes.
We have seen the rates have unchanged, parameters have remained unchanged. But let's take a short trip down memory lane. If I recall, the last time we had this discussion, before this MPC, November 26th.
Yes.
You gave predictions. Now, when you compare that prediction you gave to this one, what is the difference between that time and this time? But before then, also, what's the reason the MPC decided to let rates stay unchanged?
We said the central bank was resolute because there was a lot of pressure on the central bank to actually bring the rates down. And we know that. But let me start by saying that the last time we met was November 26, exactly a month to Christmas. And we had some projections. Today we are meeting exactly 2 months to Easter. And so we will also make some projections. But primarily, what we did say, and I did say here, was that the exchange rate, the Naira, would appreciate to 1550 by the end of the first quarter in 2025. And everybody thought I was being too pessimistic. But really, in reality, we got to 1550 precisely. We were correct. We also said that the budget will be passed, and yes, it was passed. We also said that there will be lowering of interest rates at a particular point in time. That did not happen. But basically, most of our projections, especially we said there will be another bond issue of $2 billion. There was a bond issue of $2 billion. I think that's clear. So again, we'll be forecasting at the end of this bulletin what will happen at Easter time. But to start with, today, after the central bank maintained status quo resolutely, the power market appreciated to 1,505 Naira to a dollar by 1.6%. But the PPP value of the Naira, which is very technical, is still at 1,102. Interbank interest rates remain flat, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange, as you can see here, actually lost a little bit. Average daily turnover fell. But this is the major thing. You see the Naira appreciating very quickly. But we say that this is temporary. No, don't get carried away. That it's still going to reverse itself to stay where there's fair value. So I think the important thing is that ever since then, some things have happened. what I call the bright side and the dark side. On the bright side, the Nigerian Naira has appreciated 9% in 2025. 9%. Inflationary pressures are easing, and GDP growth is actually positive. Petrol and diesel prices are cooling,
yes,
and the PMI is actually expanding. Now, on the dark side, money supply growth is at 17%, which is relatively high. Interest rates are elevated, borrowing costs are up, and ATM and POS fees are up, and telco and electricity tariffs are up. But that's a balanced picture. Now, externally, we are seeing that, of course, the Naira is strengthening, but we caution that let's not be too hasty, because it's going to correct itself. There are many things that are happening. One, the reserves of $40 billion have come down. Actually, it was $42 billion, come down to 38 point something. But we have also borrowed $4 billion in bond issues. Yeah. So when you take a look at that, you find that there's a lot of work. We have actually spent almost $8 billion trying to support the Naira at current levels. Now, what is going to happen next? That's the big issue. But before we do that, we must discuss inflation.
Yes.
Because there was a rebasing, right, methodology.
Yes. The rebasing on inflation data.
What does that mean to the average Nigerian? And the way I want to look at it is that in the slide that is going to come up next, it says 3 methods, 3 outcomes. The old method, we see 34.8%. The new method is 24.4%. There's no way that inflation can reduce by 10% in a short period. And the real method is showing you 33%.
Yes. Right?
This is what we surveyed in the market. And so, what does this mean? The man on the street does not believe that inflation has come down as sharply as that. The policymakers who are carrying out the survey and using new methodology actually believe that inflation has come down to 24%. We went into the market and saw, using the old method and we saw 33%. So, how do you explain this to ordinary people? Nigeria's inflation is like somebody who is overweight. And that's the overweight Nigerian there. Dieting, he lost 1.4% of his weight, but then he also went for cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery, and you see that that's not natural. This is more natural. So if you take out the cosmetic surgery effect and maintain just the natural dieting, the inflation numbers have actually come down by about 2 or 3%. But the trend is what is important, not the total effect. So the next, one data point is not enough to determine a trend. So we need to see February inflation, March inflation, and May inflation. Next meeting is May 19th. So there'll be 3 inflation data points between now and then. But I want us to be very clear, the difference between what is natural and what is not natural.
Which brings me to this one exactly, because, I mean, if there's something very important to an ordinary man, it's this food.
Yes.
And
let's look at the food basket. There are 8 items we looked at. 4 were in green and 4 in red. Yam tubers in August was 18,000 naira for a tuber, and now it's come down to 12,000 naira. Great. Eggs, 5,500 in August. It's up to 6,000, and it's actually increasing further. That's red. Beef, 4,000 naira a kilo in August. It's now 8,200 per kilo. So beef is really up 105%. Beans has come down from 150,000 naira a bag to 100,000 naira. Rice came down all the way to 85,000 naira in August. It's gone back up to 100, and it's increasing 18%. Gari came down from 43,000 to 35,000, lost 19%. I mean, gain, in terms of price reduction. Tomatoes, 50,000 naira down to 35,000 naira. But soft drinks have gone from 12,000 to 14,000. On average, the food basket, 4 up and 4 down. But the non-food basket is where it gets pretty tricky, which is the next slide. This slide shows that cement was 7,500 in August. It's now up to 9,700. Naturally, during the dry season, a lot of housing starts. Cooking gas has gone from 15K to 16,250. Electricity tariff stayed flat, 209 points Naira per kilo in band A. Transport fare from Lagos to Ibadan stayed flat, 3,600, even though the price of petrol and diesel have come down. Petrol was 600 Naira in August, it's now 925 Naira, but it has come down thanks to the Dangote refinery. Data is going up now from 4,500 to 6,500. So the non-food basket was negative, the food basket was positive. Now, the important thing we have to look at, how does this all break down? In the next 2 months, three things are going to happen. One, the rebased GDP will be announced. Two, February, March, and inflation reports are going to come out. Capital importation report is going to, and the World Bank spring meetings are going to take place in Washington. There will be Ramadan, people fasting, and during fasting, normally, certain food items increase in price, vegetables and fruits, but also there will be Easter on April 20, and then there will be Lent before Easter, which is Ash Wednesday. Now, what's the outlook? What are we looking forward to see? Firstly, before we even go to the outlook, if you are a survivor, which is the bottom of the pyramid, food prices are up for you, transport fares are flat, your house rent is going to be up, your utilities are up, so you are going to face difficult times if you are at the bottom of the pyramid. If you are a corporate, utility prices are up, diesel price is down, borrowing cost is down, and salaries remain flat. But if you are an elite, airline tickets are going to be cheaper because the Naira has appreciated. International school fees will lower, except if you're in the UK where they now have VAT on private schools, and luxury goods will stay flat. So for the elites, they're okay. For the corporate, good. Now, what do you expect by Easter? Oil prices will fall to $72 a barrel over the Russia-Ukraine war cools. Oil production will increase to about 1.5 million barrels a day. PMS and diesel prices will increase. Even though we have seen it go down now, they will increase towards 1,000 Naira per liter. Inflation will moderate to about 25-26% using the old method, and fixed income yields will decline. The Naira will remain stable, trading between 1,550 to 1,600 by Easter, because people are going for Umrah and lesser Hajj. So, generally speaking, cautiously optimistic, but the central bank has done a good job by maintaining the line. Thank you.
Cautious optimism is the word for
between now and Easter.
Between now and Easter. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
The CEO of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, thanks a lot for your time on the news at 10.
Thank you for having me.